It isn't long before Artie realizes that the lights along the interstate are actually a lot farther away than he had thought. Oh. Well.
Yeah.
He has no idea how long he's been walking, but it feels like at least an hour, and the road is maybe just a little closer. At this point, he's so weak, his movements so uncoordinated, that deep down he knows his body is about to give out. Every dizzy spell, every wave of anxiety, it terrifies the cat that he might have another seizure, and if he does, he knows he won't be getting back up.
Artie, please. Cam?
Artie looks around hopefully. He'd probably start crying now if Cameron just showed up, if only because he wouldn't be alone anymore. Then Artie sees a pair of headlights closer than the others. And it gets closer and closer. I don't like that. That seems like a bad sign.
It's gotta be Duke.
That's what I'm thinking. Artie knows the lights are coming right toward him, and he doesn't bother getting off the road, feeling like this must be a light at the end of the tunnel situation. Don't get Samueled. Don't actually get Samueled right
please.
now. And then the lights slow, and Artie hears the sound of an engine. What the fuck are you doing standing like a fucking idiot in the fucking road? Artie's ears twitch, recognizing the voice from somewhere in his past, in what might as well be another life. It's hard to tell because they're screaming at him. A car door opens and Artie just stands there, lost in the light. Yep. I told you guys to fuck off. First the fucking bar is closed because some fucking cold, and now you're still...
Of course. Of course Duke is one of those people who's like, COVID's no worse than a flu.
I wasn't
Fuck
ready.
you.
I wasn't ready for COVID to hit the fucking Echo universe, and we get takes. We get takes from Duke about COVID.
It's just the government trying to control us.
This is very funny to me because, like, so there's that one time in the Discord where Hallie just had that drive-by comment of mentioning that like oh yeah, if the election happened, Leo would have voted for Trump the first time around, but not the second time around, or something. And people are like, how dare you can't mix real life concept that fucking the entire sequel has actually has COVID in it.
Literally is just COVID.
It's just so surreal to have Duke have an opinion about COVID. Oh.
You think Duke is an anti-vaxxer?
Yes. He doesn't even believe COVID's real, basically.
Yeah.
Oh man. I hope that Artie survives this scene. we don't have an amazing conclusion on what the fuck Duke's situation is and what he would even do right now. I told you guys to fuck off. First the fucking bar is closed because it's some fucking cold, and now you're still here to fuck with me? I just want a cunt and drink to cunt and relax. Arturo furrows his brow, never having heard that particular word used in such a way. A figure starts to materialize in front of Arturo, and finally, he recognizes him. Oh yeah, he doesn't know his name.
Yeah.
What happened to you? The weasel stares at him, then tilts his head to the side, squinting before reaching out and turning Arturo slightly by the shoulder. Shit, there's no way. Couldn't be that fucking... The weasel trails off, then looks at Artie's face. Who did this? Artie reluctantly opens his mouth, for some reason feeling almost embarrassed about his condition.
Bear.
The weasel stares at him with an odd look. Bar? Yeah, I was at the bar. It's closed.
Bear.
Bear? Orion. Arturo nods and regrets it immediately because he almost falls over. Damn, you're real fucked up, aren't you? Arturo,
I'm like not sure. I mean, I know I said I wanted this, but I'm like truly not sure if I'm prepared to like have this story be Duke saves
Clint
the day. Eastwooding, you know, fucking Brian, like Duke versus Brian.
I'm glad you said Clint Eastwood, because when we had the other scene with Duke, like beating up the stupid college kids and stuff like that, I was just thinking of like fucking like Gran Torino and some of those other Clint Eastwood movies where it's like it's like seeing the shitty, weird, old, violent, racist character that's often the protagonist of movies from a third person perspective, and he's terrifying.
Yeah.
And exactly. I specifically was thinking about Gran Torino during this previous scene, and I'm like,
it's interesting. I mean, like, yeah, I don't know if I was specifically prepared for Duke to be this. And like I like this. I think this is interesting, and I respect the game for at least setting this up. But if the rest of this game becomes like Artie and Duke hunting Brian, my brain will melt out of my ears. Like it was truly not where I was expecting it to go fully.
That would be strange. I wouldn't imagine that they'd go after Brian so much as that. I don't know. Maybe Duke will turn around and do something, but I feel like Duke might.
Well, it did just set up that.
I feel like Duke might just help Artie.
True. I mean, he might help Artie, but I mean, I guess what I'm saying is like the very beginning set up Brian being like, Duke, are you on my property again? Yeah. And that implies that he was on his property at some point, which implies that Duke and Brian have bad blood, especially if Duke is trying to get people to stay out of Echo.
They do not get along anymore. Arturo stares back at the weasel and notices his expression, like he's trying to decide something. It's not the right reaction to the situation, and Artie suddenly feels like he might be in danger, but he has no idea why. All he remembers is that this old man had floored Devin with 2 swings, so combined with his current state, he can't do a thing. Then, the weasel seems to come out of whatever it was he was thinking about. Well, I'll be damned. This is it then, isn't it? Stupid motherfucker. Alright, get in. We're going to the hospital. Yay!
Yay!
He probably means it, I think.
Yeah, I think Duke is honest. The thing about, oh man, this is what I was talking about when I said like I like Duke as a character, because he's like a principled villain who at his core wants to do what he thinks is right. It's just his core is so warped that he hurts people. Like that's like, I don't think Duke was born a bad person. Like he became a bad person over time. And it's very interesting to have him positioned this way because, you know, it's like they're 2 characters that are both capable of horrible things. It's just that the horrible things are one of the character's goal, and the other character it's just like a byproduct. He doesn't set out to do that. Yes, exactly. And like I think Duke is interesting because one of the things I like a lot about Echo and these stories is that they take a very real look at like what it's like to be gay in like small towns in America, like even in quote unquote, you know, take this with a grain of salt. I understand the political situation that the world is in, but like quote unquote, like more progressive times, socially progressive times. You know, read that as you will. But Duke is like the example of a lot of the kinds of harmful prejudice that people have to deal with in these places. But he's also like very objectively a lesser evil than Brian, you know? And it's like, it's interesting to me that this game will play with that idea and like make the characters have to make uneasy allies. That is a kind of nuance that is, I think, very sorely missed, especially in gay media. where oftentimes, you know, we want it to be very kind of uniformly positive for us, where it's like, oh no, like Duke and Brian are both just the bad guys because they're bigoted and evil, and then we defeat them and then everyone's happy. It's interesting that this game takes this perspective of like, yeah, you know, sometimes the homophobe he'll bring you to the hospital, I guess. Like sometimes you just make uneasy allies, and that's how you live and let live. And that's, I don't know, that's kind of interesting. It's I don't know if it's something I necessarily think like should be applied politically, like as a political statement to the whole world.
It's just that
because that has issues.
People are complicated.
Yes,
they
exactly.
Don't fit into one. Like, actually, I'm trying to remember if Duke is ever explicitly homophobic. The way that like Clint and Brian are.
I think he uses a slur in Echo at one point, but I think Duke is just mean.
Yeah, all I remember is that he's terrifying and you're gay. But that isn't always, those aren't always related.
Yes, exactly. But one thing else, well, the thing with Duke though is just that Duke, I think, even if he is not explicitly like, I hate gay people and want to hurt gay people specifically, he is an example of like institutionalized authority and like long held beliefs, right? Like,
yeah,
in a way, you know, the gay people in Echo are just in his line of fire, but that is what happens to gay people in real life, you know,
like
in a lot of ways.
If Micah knew that Brian was killing a bunch of gay people, Duke definitely knew more than Micah did.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Even though I'm still unclear on, like, it's hard to piece together exactly what the situation was with Duke's wife.
Yeah.
I don't think it was ever spelled out exactly what happened. And you would think, it feels like he would know that Brian
Duke
killed his wife.
Yeah, no, Duke knows Brian killed his wife, which is why he has authority over Brian. The reason why Brian listens to him is because...
So he uses it as leverage.
Yes, he uses it as leverage. Like Duke that's the reason why Brian's afraid of Duke. So the fact that there's no town here left for anyone.
It's just
I mean, I think there's also the fact that I think Duke also was Brian's smuggling hookup, I think, something like that. I can't remember the exact details, but the fact that there's no town here left to provide ramifications for Brian's actions strips Duke of his authority and thus prevents him from having control over Brian like he did in Echo. Does that make sense?
Yeah, especially now that Brian is self-destructing, so
exactly
there's no leverage to have over him. He's just done.
This is so intriguing.
Yeah, Cameron did what Duke couldn't.
Yeah, I guess he did.
Arturo stumbles forward, and once the weasel realizes he's having trouble moving at all, he helps Arturo inside. As he does, the weasel sucks in a breath, grimacing. Jesus Christ. This is making me not want to do what I'm gonna have to do after this, but you know, everything's gotta end eventually. So he's gonna drive Artie to the hospital, and then he's gonna go after Brian, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Arturo isn't sure what the old weasel is talking about, but if he's taken him to the hospital, then at least he's on the right track.
Friends.
Yeah. I'll call Peyton PD once I drop you off. Gotta make sure I can beat him back, though.
We're gonna get fucking Cowboy Duke going after Brian.
He's going to call the police, but he's gonna specifically make sure he arrives first. He's gonna blaze the glory of this shit.
Yeah, he has like protagonist syndrome.
This is about to be Echo's like scorched earth. Nothing's left.
Yeah, like, very No Country for Old Men.
Yeah. Fucking Duke's gonna do what Jenna didn't.
Yeah, damn.
Arturo decides that it's the weasel who's acting strange. But as the strange weasel starts to make a 3-point turn to drive back towards the interstate, Arturo's only grateful. Arturo's poor brain is not going to be very grateful for this road for the next few minutes.
Oh no. He's got puke in Duke's car.
No. Like, they made a point about how much this road sucks. He's done what he can, and now the rest is up to God. He can only pray. So he prays for Devin, Cameron, Maria, and himself. Because if he survives, he knows the road in front of him is long, fractured, and broken. Yep.
What a setup.
Mm-hmm. It is quite a change. I'm kind of only now processing it to some extent. Like, this is the first time I've read a Howley story that just flies around like between all the different perspectives.
Yeah.
Like, you're very, very stuck with either Chase or Marco in the other two stories. Yeah. And any kind of vision or something is very much a deviation from that. Like, there are very specific structured moments that dreams might happen, basically, but you don't like, and here's the Neferu chapter for 3 hours. Like, that doesn't happen. This is a wildly different structure for a sequel.
Yeah.
Devin feels his body bouncing and shaking on a hard, metallic surface, occasionally leaning from side to side, feeling like he's laying down in a car taking sharp turns. No, they're going to the mine.
Yeah.
The bear opens his eyes, groaning.
If Brian's driving the van, that's curse. That is deeply cursed.
Cocaine Bear. It's Cocaine Bear. Like in the movie no one watched. Original joke. As if the entire fandom surrounding these games didn't lose their shit the moment a game called Cocaine Bear was announced. Like, hey, it's the character we know.
Dev?
Cam? Is Cameron driving? Yeah, people keep waking up and not knowing where they are. The Coyote has his own sedan that he drives, but usually if they're out together, it's in Devin's Jeep. At first he thinks maybe he's given the wheel to the Coyote so that he himself can get some rest, but they came in the Jeep, and Cameron can't drive standard, right? Is standard something people call manual?
Yeah, standard transmission, manual transmission, same thing. Come on, stop assuming things.
Lately, Cameron seems to bristle whenever he does. Lately, as in ever since they got to Echo.
Devin, I'm here. How are you doing?
Cameron's concerned, gentle voice is clearly masking something strained and desperate underneath. Cameron? What's wrong? I told you, he's all drugged up.
But he can barely talk.
Cam? Exactly. I already told you I roofied him. It's like blacking out. Anyway, it's wearing off. He's just tired.
Is that blood? Why is he bleeding?
Did it to himself. Imagine what a mess we'd have if he wasn't drugged, right? Never trust a bear to stay put when you chain him up.
Devin, can you hear me? Are you okay?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I guess that was probably Devin's thought. I'm just so used to them being Cameron's.
Yeah.
Then he's drifting back to sleep again. More sounds of driving on a rough road, gravel grinding under wheels and hitting the undercarriage. When he comes to again, it's stopped, and Devin realizes the van doors are open. Looks like it did wear off just in time.
Can I go to him, please?
Devin sees that one of Cameron's ears is twisted in the older bear's grasp. Coyote's head tilted to the side, wincing as he tries to get a better look at Devin. The younger bear becomes very still, seeing his best friend being held by the worst person he's ever met. One of his soft, sensitive ears that Devin had played with countless times in the past is now twisted tightly onto itself. In Brian's other paw, he holds a shotgun. On top of it all, Brian looks angrier than usual. In fact, he's looking at Cameron with an expression of utter contempt, all while Cameron isn't paying attention to him, looking intently at Devin instead. Of course. Fucking typical. I'm glad I saved this. He suddenly grabs the coyote by the shoulders and turns Cameron around to face him, to face away from Devin. Even so, there's no confusion as to what happens to Cameron next. Brian turns slightly away from Cameron, then spins and sends the back of his fist across the coyote's muzzle. The sound is so loud, Devin is shocked awake, adrenaline compensating for the sedative. At first, Devin refuses to believe what he just saw, that a sound like that could have been made with Cameron's muzzle. The coyote's head snaps to the right before he instantly starts to crumple, but Brian holds him up. Hey! Devin yells automatically, shocked by what he just saw. He'd never seen someone hit that hard in his entire life. In the silence that follows, the distinct sound of something small clatters around the van, as if a plastic bead had been thrown against the metal walls. He lost a tooth. Devin hears it land next to him, and looking down, he sees something long spinning in place before it finally comes to a stop. It's thin, white, and it starts wide but tapers to a sharp point. Devin only has a moment to focus on it before he grunts as Cameron lands on top of him, Brian having pushed him over. As he's looking down at the coyote and sees the blood beginning to seep from his mouth, Devin realizes the white thing is one of Cameron's teeth, and shocked anger overcomes the fear. Put it back in, you can keep it.
Ew.
That's just the weird
Imagine
trick.
if it were that easy.
It is.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it really is. You can put a tooth back in, and it'll heal.
Yeah, it's not 100% that easy though, because if you try to put something back in that's been disconnected from the root, or the root has been shattered, then you will have horrible nerve damage, and it will probably rot in your face. That is very dangerous.
Well, yeah, go to the doctor and then put it back in. But like, you can save the tooth. This is a
sure.
thing. This is not, I don't like this. No.
Yeah, that's not good.
No.
You don't want to form an abscess in your jaw. You'll get brain damage and die.
This is a surprisingly underutilized element in for as much as it was like a gay horror story and everything. Like, this doesn't come up much in Echo, like this specific form of like a couple going through the horrors together, because they're such bad. The entire friend group has such bad relationships that they can't ever reach this point in Echo. So
of like caring for someone else's hurt.
Like, this is such a specific, different horror. Hey! All sense has seemingly left Devin. Everything he's feeling and thinking condensed down to that one word that he screams to express his rage. Cam? Panic is making him breathe fast, though he tries to keep his chest from heaving to avoid bouncing Cameron's head. Brian hit him so hard that it definitely could have killed him. What makes it all the more terrifying is the way Cameron's body went limp. It had been so reminiscent of Artie's sudden collapse when he had suddenly lost his life. But Cameron is breathing, though it's in a terrible, snorting way. Cam, baby, can you hear me? The panic in his voice lowers to an almost pitiful whine as he stares at the coyote, twitching, his eyes half open and his head turning back and forth slowly. Whoops. Took out a bit more on him than I meant to. Fuck, that hurt. Brian shakes the paw he'd used to hit Cameron, as if bashing Cameron's muzzle made it sting. Devin's rage crescendos once more. Brian, I will fucking kill you. Brian looks surprised for just a second. Then he goes on grinning, enjoying the reaction, as if he's watching a show. It only makes Devin angrier. I'll knock every tooth out of your fucking head. I'll tear your throat out. I'll... Devin's voice weakens, breaks, and trails off under Brian's apparent glee at the younger bear's fury. Realizing that Cameron's ears are twitching at the shouting, Devin returns his attention to Cameron as the coyote lets out a low, rasping groan. Cameron, honey, you can hear me, right? Cameron. Meanwhile, blood oozes out of the coyote's nose and mouth, seeping into the fur on Devin's stomach and side. Devin tries to keep his sobbing and gasping to a minimum as Cameron's head continues to rest over his diaphragm. Cameron's eyes flutter, then he blinks, and Devin sees the light of consciousness re-enter his eyes. Cam.
Devin?
Cameron grunts under his breath, lifting his head slightly. Brian already looks bored at the catastrophe he just created, and now he keeps looking over his shoulder into the darkness that stretches behind him, shifting impatiently. Alright, make it quick, yo, we need to get moving. Don't you touch him. You could have broken his fucking neck. Devin's voice cracks and turns hoarse again. Brian bristles, finally reacting, but Devin turns his attention back to Cameron, continuing to try and coax him into a state of consciousness. Come on, baby. Can you hear me? Can you understand what I'm saying? Slowly, Cameron lifts his head, a mixture of blood and saliva connecting his lip to Devin's fur in a long strand.
I'm okay, I'm fine.
Cameron sounds confused as he mumbles, trying to get up unsteadily. No, stay still. No, get up. Didn't I tell you what I'd do to your bear if you don't? Then do it. Come over here and do it, you fucking coward, you fucking scum.
Devin.
Cameron's voice is calm, albeit quiet and weak, and the bear goes silent as he focuses back on the coyote. He has his head lifted, trying to focus on Devin's face.
Who's feeling this right now?
The question catches the bear by surprise. What?
The mines. That's right. I'm going to the mines and I'm coming back for you.
Completely dissociated.
Yeah, he's full on Doctor Strange, seeing all the timelines at once, like totally out of his own body at this point.
Cameron clasps a paw to his muzzle, wincing hard as he shuts his eyes tight. What? What mines? Stay here. Devin's eyes well up with tears, seeing that the coyote is barely coherent, barely able to understand what's happening. Then Cameron leans in to kiss the bear, again taking Devin by surprise. He immediately smells and tastes Cameron's blood, making the gorge rise in his throat. It reminds him of his predatory nightmares. But Cameron insists, so Devin forces himself not to heave.
Is he gonna get Legoshi meat eater superpowers and break the chains? Sorry, I shouldn't be laughing at this very sentimental moment, but
I mean, I think you're right.
Yeah, I am.
I mean, you're wrong, but I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think Cameron's kissing the key into his mouth.
Yeah, I think it's something like that for sure. But also, what if Devin goes Super Saiyan?
His predatory instincts. Now it's just gay text.
Yeah, there's no subtext here.
He doesn't want to
He
feel
gets
the
boner
gap.
power.
He doesn't want to feel the gap where Cameron's lower left canine used to be, the unevenness of his already swelling muzzle. As he forces himself to kiss back, he feels something else press up against his lips. Something hard and oddly shaped. And Devin opens his muzzle, allowing the blood to flood into his mouth. I'm so good at media.
You did it.
But with it comes something else. And Devin realizes all at once that it's the key. Devin maneuvers the key into his muzzle as subtly as he can, hearing Brian sigh impatiently behind Cameron. It slides under his tongue, tiny in its comparatively large muzzle. Cameron whispers into Devin's ear.
We're gonna go back home together. I promise.
Where are you going? Why the mines? Honey, please. Devin can't help but can't keep the whining panic out of his voice, sounding like a cub, managing to keep the words clear with the tiny key under his tongue. Devin just stares at Cameron as he pulls back, tears rolling down his cheeks as the coyote crawls weakly to his feet and steadies himself against the wall of the van. You're fine. He turns his gaze back to the furious, sobbing bear. Sit tight, kid. We'll be back in a little while, I promise. It's gonna be quite the contortion to get that key to his hand. Being knocked out, regaining consciousness, stumbling his way through the dark, all while on an untold amount of shrooms is harrowing. That's the only word Cameron feels is appropriate for this situation. Harrowing. The world is more dreamlike than his dreams. This combination of disorienting factors leaves Cameron fumbling through a series of events immediately after he'd reached the old bear. Brian grabbed his paw, and suddenly they were moving swiftly through the desert, while Cameron is pulled into a place that's cold and dark, lit up dimly by an odd electric lantern, its handle hanging from the barrel of Brian's shotgun. It's got the Doom flashlight mod. If Cameron thought his perception of time was fucked on a weed, now it's twisting over itself. He's exhausted, having not eaten a proper meal in well over a day, and his throat is so dry he thinks he might be willing to drink Brian's drugged water. Each time Brian goes through a bend first, or his bulk obscures it, the lantern's light disappears and leaves Cameron in darkness. Each time that happens, brilliant red arcs crowd his vision.
Who's in darkness?
Oh.
I'm in the darkness.
Fucked up Sprite.
Yeah. He's got a nosebleed. Good character design. My favorite trope.
He's got
he's missing like one of his front teeth too. That sucks.
Oh yeah, no, he lost like his canine, I think.
Yeah.
Or whatever, or the fang. Everything is in darkness. Oops.
No, it's fine. Yeah, I mean, if you want to read the italics, you can.
No, I'm just fucked up.
Oh, okay. Everything is in darkness. No, just me.
Stop fighting it. It'll only make it worse. Cameron's surprised by the bear's sudden appearance.
Where am I?
Brian sighs heavily again. Doesn't matter.
But...
Cameron crumples as something jabs him hard in the sternum, twisting in on itself, feeling a black hole open in his chest. It sucks the rest of his body and attention into it, as the canine curls up on the hard dirt floor, whining and grunting. Finally, air returns to his lungs, and as it does, he hears a snorting sound again. After a while, Cameron looks up from his position on the ground to see Brian on his knees, appearing to smell the stock of his shotgun. Then Cameron notices the white powder, and he understands what's happening. Cameron hears a familiar voice, one that he's sure he is hearing and not imagining. Oh. Hello. What does Dylan sound like?
Probably a dirtbag.
Fuck. Voices are hard. Don't snort it. You're trying to coat your nasal cavity, not your fucking lungs.
That's how my friends did it.
Then your friends are fucking idiots. Brian looks up from his disappearing line of bath salts. Who are you talking to? Cameron quietly tries to hush Dylan, but Brian already heard them. On top of that, Brian doesn't seem angry or upset, but his continued stare demands an answer.
His name's Dylan. He's my ex. Sorry, we don't get along well.
You getting some third man syndrome? Whenever I get real fucked up on too many drugs for too long, a person always shows up. I end up having a conversation with them and everything. Brian readjusts the way he's holding his lantern and gun and grabs Cameron's arm with the other. I hear it happens to people in survival situations too. Anyway, I'm always too delirious to remember who the third man is.
Yeah.
Cameron can't understand how Dylan isn't real, but this nightmare bear apparently is. Is he being tricked? Alright, here's the deal. I'll stop hitting you as long as you're smiling. Got it?
Huh?
You're gonna get hit. Brian clenches his fist menacingly. Cameron winces, then quickly stretches his mouth into a large smile, even though it hurts to the point that tears well up in his eyes.
Sorry. I didn't realize what you were talking about for a second. I remember now.
This is a tragic Sprite.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Sure you do, pathetic faggot. Brian continues to inspect Cameron as the coyote remains quiet, keeping a smile plastered on his face. This experience is too much. All of this is too much. He just wants it to stop, and he'll do whatever this bear, this source of his torment, wants if it prevents him from being hurt again.